Hello, and welcome to the Cheap Seats. It's been a season full of cheap seats, and now we're at the final weekend. And I've got Wahid and I've got Dean to discuss what's going to happen in the final weekend. We already know teams have already been relegated. We're not going to talk about that. By Fulham, by but it's not. By Sheffield, and I don't know who's the last one.
West Brom.
Yes, that team, West Brom. Goodbye, West Brom. We won't miss you guys. And then obviously we've got the top four race happening, the other European spots, the rest of the other European spots. I was also going to discuss that. And then we're going to discuss the two teams in North London. I think it's going to be quite interesting to see the contrasting decision-making styles between an American owner and Daniel Levy, and how that's going to work out. And then we're going to discuss, most importantly, what does top four really mean? I think we might actually start with that, and then we'll go into everything else.
You mentioned, Paul, that we won't miss those relegated three. And I think as a United fan, I can safely say that I won't miss any of them because we haven't beaten any of them this season.
Well, we hope Norwich will be a much stiffer competition for you, Wahid, as well as Watford. And hopefully this time Brentford make it in. I'm hoping for Brentford to make it through. But I think they might have a bit of a situation on their hands right now with the playoffs. But before we get going, remember you can interact with us on these various platforms. Most importantly, the YouTube one. Please like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've got lots more content happening. We're going to have a cricket podcast starting probably with the West Indies tour to see how that's going to do. But do support the One More Sports Radio channel. Dean, how are you doing?
A lot better than last week. COVID-free, fully recovered. So making good strides there, unlike my football team. So striving along personally, but football-wise, just the same old nonsense.
So the thought that COVID is worse, Tottenham is worse than COVID is just wild. But anyway.
I mean, COVID. Spurs looked like they were playing with COVID the first half. It looked like I was playing, so it was tough to watch and experience. But yeah, at least we almost at the end.
And Wahid, welcome back. I think do we say Happy Eid?
Thanks. Yeah, it was Friday. It's a bit difficult to join these podcasts at this time when it's Ramadan, but good to be back.
Yes, especially when Manchester United somehow found a way to draw to Fulham last night. Well, we haven't forgotten. No,
I don't remember the result. All I remember is the Thunder Bastard by my man Edinson.
It was offside though, so. It's a bit weird.
It did come off of Bruno's foot. We all saw that. We don't know what the TV ref was doing.
I don't care what you say. It's goal of the season.
Timo Werner's last night must have counted as well. If you want to count goals that are illegal, you want to knock it in with your hand, you can do the same.
But
Maradona counted in 86, so this will count here.
But a year with Edinson Cavani, Wahid, is probably going to be a very good one next year. So, gents, throughout my Arsenal supporting career, especially when the Emirates was built, Arsene Wenger had a knack for finishing in that fourth spot. He just did it year in, year out. And everyone kept on saying that Arsenal fans think top four is a trophy. And to some extent, I was be like, yeah, maybe, because it kept us in Champions League and it kept us going. But throughout the years, obviously, everyone vilified the Arsenal fans who thought that top four was a trophy. But has it become that with the revenue, the extra revenue that you get from Champions League, and what we're going to be talking about right now with these teams fighting tooth and nail to get into that top four spot, even if it means that they have to go to some part of Eastern Europe to play a first leg against some unknown champion from some unknown country to make it in? Wahid, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say trophy, but let's talk about the financial side of it. And I think when I last looked at it, the difference, I must be honest with you, I can't remember the exact figures, but the difference in the prize money between 1 and 4 was so insignificant in comparison to the expenditure needed to jump from 4th to 1. So if we look at City in the season, maybe let's backtrack to like 2011 or 2010 when City started this journey to the very top of English football. They needed to put in 100 million just about every single season. They've spent £1 billion.
Close to £1 billion, yes.
Yeah, they've spent close to £1 billion in order to do this. But when we look at the simple financial impact, the financial side of it, I think owners like Stan Kroenkes of the world or the Glazers, who are driven by numbers, who are not necessarily driven by watching their team lift a trophy at the end of the season, look at the difference in that prize money and the broadcast rights and think, well, is it worth spending the 40, 50, 60 million pounds extra to win the £6 million more, or gain the £8 million more from the broadcasters? Is it worth that kind of outlay? And I think that's where we've kind of headed with bad. And we've talked about this, about bad ownership and owners who are not necessarily interested in the sporting nature of the club. And you've seen that last night at Old Trafford with the protests, at the Emirates with the protests as well. And it's a case of bad ownership. And I think we need to assess what the owner of the club is looking for when deciding whether top four is a trophy or not. So I think that when you're looking at bad owners like the Glazers or the Stan Kroenkes of the world, yes, top four is a trophy. That's what they want. They bring in the Champions League football. They're bringing in the broadcast rights. They're getting enough prize money to get by and to get their dividend out to the club in the following season. So I think when you look at bad ownership, yes. When you look at a club like Leicester, who have good ownership, no, I think top four is... No, sorry. That's a bad point. Leicester will look at it like a trophy. But when you look at a club like Chelsea or Liverpool, I don't think they look, or even City, I don't think they look at it like a trophy. I think they're driven by success and not necessarily making do.
Is it because, and I'm going to kind of go to you, Dean, is it because for some of the clubs like Arsenal and Manchester United who have a massive following around the world, who have been winning trophies for years, for the past 2-3 decades, that now obviously in this decade when the lean patch is there and the revenue from winning these tournaments is drying up, that top four revenue is now becoming even more important, because whereas the other clubs who haven't won in a while are looking for those successes. Like, you need to win to become relevant and to win more fans and get that global base. Could that be something that's the reason why this top four race for some people is so important?
Yeah, I think, look, I would love if top four was a trophy, because that means Spurs would have actually won a few trophies in the last few seasons. So I would 100% take that as a trophy. But I think, to the point though, I think in terms of top four, you also have to look at what it means for the players of those clubs. And I think, especially now with Spurs having missed Champions League football for the last 2 years, the first comment that comes out is, so-and-so wants to leave because he wants to play Champions League football. And I think that is the biggest driver as well from a player's perspective, is they want to be in sides that are playing the Champions League football, because that is where you're putting the best of the best are playing each other. So from a player's perspective, they obviously see it as a massive achievement. And I think for the clubs that are used to achieving, like the United or the Liverpool, they see it as almost as mandatory, and that's kind of deteriorating away because of the lack of success that some of them have had in the recent performances. But I think in terms of the clubs that are up and coming, because obviously we were all used to the top four, it was United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, and then everyone else, while we were growing up, it was kind of like you're on the peripheral. For the clubs like Spurs or Leicester, obviously City's now coming to the forefront, but those kind of clubs, I think they see top four as a sort of entrance ticket to the big leagues, and that's how they can then explode from there. I mean, if Leicester had to go on and you can't say they never will, but if Leicester had to go on and win the Champions League, that's massive. I mean, all of a sudden then they are in a bigger conversation than what they would normally be for example, winning the Premier League and now winning the FA Cup. So I think top 4 is the first hurdle in getting you into a bigger conversation. But in terms of the clubs that are used to getting Champions League football and playing, European football year in, year out, I think they still see it as a sort of mandatory accomplishment. It's more the sort of 5, 6, 7 place teams that would see it as a bigger accomplishment than the others.
Okay, so Wahid, you're sharing something with us now. I'm gonna put it up for the world to see.
Yeah. So this is from a few seasons ago. So it's I just brought it up quickly. It's not the current numbers, but the current numbers aren't too different from this because it's after the big broadcast deal. And what we can see here is that the merit component of the Premier League, for coming first, City got 38 million. Overall, they got 151 million. Spurs in fourth got 33 million. It's only 5 million less than City. But if we had to go and look at the outlay that season, City would have spent exponentially more than the 5 million more that than they're getting here. Do you understand what I'm saying? So from a Glazer economics perspective, the Glazers are looking here saying, if we can get if we can get fourth or third by spending 40 million, and we need to spend 150 million to get first, because we need to buy Sancho and we need to buy Declan Rice and we need to buy someone like Rafael Varane. We need to spend 160 million pounds to compete with Manchester City. They probably looking at it and saying, is it worth the 6 million net difference here? Is it worth that? And I fear that's where we've gotten to with bad ownership. I fear that's where it's headed. Is it worth that kind of money?
And I think the 40 million extra plus that you're getting from the Champions League kind of covers that expense to always try to keep you there all the time. And then
the fourth spot. Yeah.
It kind of then guarantees you that revenue that you're getting from the Premier League is more of a consistent one. The only problem is when it leaves, and then you have to then, and in Arsenal's case now, because it's the first time in 25 years they won't be playing in Europe, when that revenue dries up, and you have to then try shell more money in to try and get there. And I think that's what created that chasm between the top 4 and everybody else that's been in the early 2000s, and then Manchester City coming in, putting in that money to get into that conversation and be a consistent player in there. To try and balance those books. So I think, as you've shown, Wahid, I think for that's the answer. I think that's what the Crinkers were looking for, because they had the stadium to pay off, so they needed to make sure that revenue line didn't dip as much as possible. And to a certain extent, it's become a culture and it's become a norm. But I think for fans, you always want the trophy, and it's been like close to 20. It's going to be close to 20 years since Arsenal's won a Premier League, so it's very scary.
I'd rather see the money on the field than in the bank.
That is true. So let's move on to the next one. So we're talking about top 4. Let's move on to what's happening this weekend. There are 2 teams who are guaranteed European spots. Congratulations, Wahid, you're one of them. You're not winning the Premier League, but you are sitting pretty in
small steps. I mean, it's the first time since Bergie's left that we've got back-to-back Champions League seasons. So it's small steps to fixing the culture of the club.
And then there are 3 teams that are hanging around the European spots that have a legitimate chance at making it in. That is Chelsea, who are currently sitting in 3rd, Leicester, who are sitting in 4th after even though losing to Chelsea last night, and Liverpool, who play tonight against Burnley, and they have a chance to, in beating Burnley, pushing Leicester down to 5th. But the most important thing are those final weekend games that we're looking at. All 3 teams need a win in order to secure a spot, essentially. If you draw, you find yourself in a situation where you could be taken out. You could find yourself in 5 by the end of that day. And that's the reason why we love this league, because there's always some plot and intrigue. So Chelsea play Villa on Sunday, Leicester play Spurs, and Liverpool play Palace on Sunday, which I'd say assume that unless if you got a massive Chris Wood situation happening. I don't think Burnley will beat Liverpool, but you don't know with this league. But even if they don't, Liverpool still has some sort of a shot to come in if Leicester somehow lose to Spurs on Sunday. Dean, I want to start with you.
Liverpool's fate is in their own hands.
Yeah.
Leicester's isn't. Leicester have to rely on a slip up somewhere else now, and they've gone and done exactly what they did last year. They got themselves into a really good position, and it was like soda water. It just like fizzled out.
So, Dean, of these three teams, who do you think is going to get out? What do you think is going to happen on Sunday? I look at Leicester and as Wahid says, momentum's gone. They've won the FA Cup. They look like they were still hungover yesterday, and now they're facing probably one of the biggest games for them, because I don't think they want to play in Europa League again. They lost the last time they this past season.
Well, yeah, I think the game on Sunday is all the games are obviously going to be very interesting, but I do agree with you. I think Leicester it's almost like you've got a sense of they've done what they would have wanted to do in the beginning of the season. They've won a trophy and they're in that top four kind of fight, and if you're a Leicester fan sitting in the beginning of the season, you kind of go, yeah, okay, I'll probably take it. The problem is they're playing Spurs, and obviously, I don't think Spurs are going to lose against Leicester, but I think having come through the week that Leicester have with that FA Cup on Saturday, losing to Chelsea, I mean, even before that, they lost to Newcastle before that. They hadn't had a great. They beat United 2-1, but that's because United fielded their D team. So, I mean, in terms of Leicester, I don't think they have the kind of enough to push them over the line. And that's amplified even more by the fact that I don't see Chelsea losing on Sunday, and I don't see Liverpool losing to either Burnley or who do they? Liverpool play Palace on Sunday.
Yeah.
So, even if you take that,
Palace minus Eze.
Minus Eze because he's got the injury. So even if you take all three of those teams, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Leicester, and they all win of their remaining games, Leicester can still finish outside that top four based on goal difference alone.
Yes.
So it comes down even more to the fact of, well, are Leicester going to go out and then beat Spurs by 3-4 goals? I don't see that happening either to get into that top four. So unfortunately for Leicester, I mean, I think they probably, in terms of the general Premier League fan, no one has a bad thing to say about Leicester. They are a well-run club. And you kind of, if they do well, you don't feel that bad. Whereas if Liverpool finish top four, I want to hide away in my cupboard for a week just so I don't see any Liverpool fans. But that's why, unfortunately, I don't see Leicester finishing top four. I think it's going to be Chelsea third, Liverpool fourth, Leicester skimming by their teeth fifth, and then Spurs finishing sixth because that's the best that we can do.
Is that Leicester's level? Is that because this is 2 seasons in a row? Are they the 5th best team in England? Every year, consistently.
I think they are
consistently the 5th best. Yeah.
I don't think they are. I think from a squad level, they're slightly lower than that. I think Spurs should be somewhere in there. They should be the 6th, possibly the 7th. Look, you've got Harry Kane, the top goal scorer in the league, and you're still finishing in 7th.
No, it's a fact.
Wherever that is, and I think it's a case of this Leicester team needs investment, as you said, Wahid, to break into that top four. And right now, and then the question is, when will that come to fruition from a Leicester fan base? Because what they've done so far is that they've built this team. It feels like Everton in the early 2000s. Yes,
it feels like a really shit version of Borussia Dortmund. They build and then get picked off. Like they're just people cherry pick their stars.
That's what they are. They are. Yeah.
But the great thing about Leicester is they know where to find those players to replace them. Like the fact that they want
refining them.
Wesley Fofana, and the wild thing is that he was partnering Saliba, and Arsenal picked Saliba. They left Fofana, and you're like, dudes, who's the scout? And so they've got a replacement coming in for for what our friend Wilfred and Didi, because I think they're assuming that he might go out of the French league. So their scouting system is great. That squad is a top 6 squad. I think Spurs should be 5th, but we know what happened.
As Vardy's on the wane, they've planned so well to a point where Vardy's on his way out, and Iheanacho has sort of risen to the top of his game right at the time when Vardy's probably looking at reducing his role in the squad.
But if Iheanacho didn't do what he did the past 5-6 weeks, Leicester aren't even in top 6 conversation.
They'll be below Arsenal.
So and things just happen at the right time for them, and I wish I knew how, but they just seem to click.
But it was a whole, we didn't think Iheanacho would even get game time this season.
No, exactly.
Until the Harvey Barnes and Jamie Maddison injuries. And even then, you kind of felt that we've never seen Leicester play 2 up front before. And then it somehow seemingly worked. And it worked well even in the cup final, because Iheanacho is a menace. He's a menace to defenders.
So I would say the most important player is Evans. Evans is the glue that holds that team together. How we ever let that man go is beyond me. He's a seriously good footballer.
Yeah, no, and he should be Premier League Team of the Season. He has a case to be in that Premier League because this Leicester team, and that's what Brendan Rodgers does. Is Brendan can work with good players and he can let them and help them above them. But I don't know, and I think that's what we saw with Liverpool is if you take him out, if you take Brendan Rodgers, for instance, Spurs needs a coach, a manager. If Brendan Rodgers somehow was like, you know what, I'm done. I need a bigger challenge, and you put him in that toilet bowl that they call themselves right out lane, and can he replicate all of this with the stars that Spurs has? Because Spurs has some very good players, and Dobela's no scrub, Dele is no scrub. They've got Son, they've got Kane. Højbjerg was great last season, and still didn't do that badly.
This was his first season.
Well, the season at Southampton, he wasn't that bad.
Southampton.
But that's the question with Brendan Rodgers. And will the Leicester fans become like United fans and ask for more investment in the club? And what does it come with? Because you kind of are waiting for Leicester to somehow, even this off-season or next off-season, give us a 50 million signing or a 60, 70 million signing and say, this is the guy we think can take us into the top 4.
Yeah, just to backtrack there, I do think that at some point, Brendan Rodgers is going to need to try his hand at somewhere bigger. He's obviously gone the Swansea route. He's gone to Liverpool, probably a step too soon in his career. He's gone back. He's regrouped. He's gone to Celtic. He's won the lot there. He's made the intermediate step to a Leicester. And I'm sure that at some point, he's probably going to want to try his hand at a big club, wherever that may be, whether that's at a Spurs, whether that's at an Arsenal, if you still consider yourselves big clubs in North London. But he's going to want to try something bigger than Leicester at some point, and it'll be interesting to see how he goes, because he didn't handle Liverpool all that badly. It didn't go well for him in the end, but he didn't handle it that badly. He got them damn close to their first league title.
Really close,
yeah. Well, we know what happened. That was fun. But
look, I would take Rodgers. I would take Rodgers hand down.
If I look at the younger managers in the
team, he wouldn't take you. That's the issue. Yeah, he wouldn't take you.
Yeah, and that's the sad fact. He it's open. Like literally, the seat is open, and he doesn't want to take it. He wants to stay at Leicester.
He's waiting for the season to end, guys. Don't worry, man. He just wants to see it out, and then he signs next week.
So for
being at a party, looking at the hottest girl in the club, going, "Yeah, that one," and she's going,
But the thing with Brendan Rodgers, of the young managers in the group, and I include him in there, I kind of feel as though he is like the best, and it's the experience that he's had. But that Liverpool stint showed that he has the time to take a big club. Whereas I think David Moyes, on the other hand, and you can contrast it because it was right around that era, David Moyes, on the other hand, kind of showed us that he couldn't. And he had the benefit at a smaller club. The jump up was a bit too much, whereas I felt that Rodgers at Liverpool did quite well with those guys. And like, dude, managing Suarez is something. Well done to him. But let's move over to North London, and we're talking about the girl at the club. Arsenal's not in the club. We're not looking for anybody. We're sticking with Pep Light, and who's got drama?
Kane, I don't think you can call it Pep Light. I think it's like Coca-Cola, Pepsi. They're not even in the same league. Like, no,
probably.
You can't.
Pepsi is nice, bro. This is like one of those South African local brands, like Tweezer or Squeezer or whatever the hell it's called.
It's that good Pick and Pay no-name brand versus Coca-Cola.
So yeah, Mikel Arteta is staying somehow, and they're going to back him. We don't know how much money they're going to back him with.
Enough to do his eyebrows once a week.
Probably. But Dean, on your end, it's fire now, because all of a sudden Harry Kane said he wants to go. So firstly, how do you feel about Harry Kane wanting to go? And because we spoke about two weeks ago what we needed to do to stay, but clearly nothing's happened in the intervening period. So how do you feel about Harry Kane going, and how does next season look like for you?
Yeah, look, when the news came out, I wasn't surprised, but obviously it's not great news to hear that your greatest player in the last 10 years wants to leave the club. So getting over that fact, kind of looking at it more from taking your heart out of the game and having a look at it. I think it's probably the best time for Spurs to sell Harry Kane, try to get as much as possible, and really look at investing in the squad properly. The problem is, I would say that with confidence if my club was a well-run club. It's not a well-run club. So Levy's going to sell Kane for 150 million and then probably buy Iheanacho for 15. Yeah, and that's the problem that we're sitting with. I do think, though, if Kane leaving right now, I can't blame him. I mean, 3 years ago, he said he wants to win trophies. He wants to be, and he deserves to be winning trophies. He deserves to win all the accolades. He's 27. He should be there. He's not doing it at Spurs, and I don't think Spurs are going to do it for the next 3-4 years, even if we start this rebuild now. So he should leave from a player perspective. The reports are saying that he said he wants to leave. Apparently no transfer request has been put in. He has had some conversations with Levy saying that he wants to go, though. So officially no transfer request, but
to a point where they're reporting that he has a gentleman's agreement with
Daniel. He does have a gentleman's agreement, but gentleman's agreement means nothing with Levy. So that's the problem. Levy doesn't want to sell. That's the problem.
So Dean, how do the fans react at Spurs when they go into the stadium and they see him touch the ball? Do they boo?
I think Spurs fans have such an admiration and a love for Harry Kane. I don't think they would boo him. I don't think, even if he had to move to a different Premier League team, I definitely wouldn't be booing Harry Kane if he had to move to City. I might do differently if he moved to United or Chelsea, but if he had to move to City, I think it would be okay. The problem is that
do you boo a player who's achieved as much as he can at your club, wanting to go on?
Trying his absolute best.
It's different at different clubs. So at Spurs, he feels like I've achieved all I can here. It's not going anywhere. You look at someone like Ronaldo, who at Man United again felt I've achieved everything I can here. Let me go live the dream somewhere else. The achieved all you can was sort of different at those two different clubs. But United still have loads of love for Cristiano Ronaldo. He comes around and he gets cheered. His song is still sung at Old Trafford when he's not around. I mean, he's adored by the fans. And I would assume that Spurs would probably go down that route, adore the man and realize that he needs to move on and the two parties need to part ways here.
I think the biggest thing, though, is going to be who the coach is. So we'll see who the coach comes in the next, hopefully, 2-3 weeks. And then based on that, if Kane leaves, we need to have a proper plan, and we need to have a proper plan of more who we're going to bring in and who that rebuild is going to be around. Everyone has their shopping list of people, but
yeah, so
I'd be upset if we, I've
Look,
got my
one of
shopping
those-
list.
I just want to say, you guys have had the situation once before where you got £100 million for player, and you.
Yeah, but we went and bought everyone who could kick a bloody soccer ball.
I was about to say you spent it on Paulinho and
Hey,
Eric
Paulinho
Lamela
was good.
and Eric Lamela and Kirikesh and
But that's why I don't think we go and buy 7 players. I want us to buy 3 or 4, and then we start with a proper platform, and we bring in the youngsters and we start properly. But again, that's easy to say when you've got a well-run football club.
So I'll throw another one at you, Dean. Player exchange from the club's mentioned.
I'm not taking Martial. I'm not taking Martial.
Okay. Who?
Would you take Gabriel Jesus?
No.
Jesse
I've already
Lingard.
decided who I want from City and how much they must pay.
Who is that from City?
I wanted City must play 150 mil, okay? And the place where I think we lacking and where we can probably get a player, because I'd rather take the 150 mil, take Zinchenko and we fill in that left back role, okay? Hear me out, 150 mil, okay? And we got Zinchenko. We sell Serge Aurier is already going to PSG. Lloris is going, okay? So then we look at Sam Johnston from West Brom or Nick Pope from Burnley as goalkeepers.
Dean Henderson at this point.
Well, if we could get Dean Henderson, I would flip and take him. But I think the marquee signing that all Spurs fans are calling for, and I know you guys are going to raise your eyebrows, is Jack Grealish. That's who we go for. That's the person that we go and we invest the money in. And he can then take us.
I see that. I see that. And that's a natural progression in his career. Yeah.
Because
That'll make a lot of sense.
Aston Villa without Grealish are a 10
So it would be. So who would be? So then the question is, obviously, there's a glaring hole up front. No Harry Kane. So who's your striker?
Danny Ings.
Oh, good lord.
Oh, that's a big call. You're going to pay £50 million for Ings in this market, and he's 28.
The injuries, no. I'd rather you go get Bamford than go get Danny.
Okay. I was going to say, Bamford or Watkins.
Bamford
or Watkins. You're taking Grealish. You might as well take Watkins while you're at it.
Okay, fair enough. But I think Spurs have got Troy Parrott at Millwall on loan, and we've got Dane Scarler coming in. So I want to get someone with a little bit more. 100% they're young. No one knows them, but that's the point of a rebuild. They're not.
I'm sorry. Okay, look, go get those guys.
Bamford's going to win us the Champions League.
He's not. Dean, you need someone who's going to replace the goals. Here's the problem. You're losing 20 plus goals a season. You already gotten Son playing his best season of football this season. So Son's given you 17 goals scored and I think 8 assists, right? So you've got Son doing that, but you need to replace Harry Kane's 20 goals. Because if you don't, you're going to be in the same situation you were last season. So you need to get someone who's going to do 15. You know,
okay, to be fair, I didn't think of Patrick Bamford. So now that you say Patrick Bamford, I want Patrick Bamford. I don't want Danny Ings anymore.
No, you can take Danny Ings, but the injuries this season, I'm like, dude, I wouldn't touch him with a 10 for Paul, unless if they gave you if they were like 5 million, because that's how much I'd pay for Danny.
Well, I don't know what Ings' contract is looking like, but I don't think he's got much to go.
But it better be a steal, because I'd be okay with that. But you need to.
They're going to want 30, 40, 50 million pounds for this player.
Yeah,
the biggest thing is defenders. As a defender, who do you go and buy? You go buy Skriniar from Inter.
He's not going to come to Spurs. He's not going to leave a winning team who's just won the league.
Guys, I'm punching with Jack Grealish.
No.
I think Martin Skriniar is
so here's the thing. I'd be okay with that 100 million, right? 150 million. You went to Aston Villa and said, give me Tyrone Mings or Ezri Konsa, whoever you want. But I think Tyrone Mings because you need a leader at centre back. Give me Jack Grealish and give me Ollie Watkins. For that 150, you can split it however you want. Here's the 3 that I want. That's the 3 I can build around young English players, and let's go. Okay. Or you can take 50 and go get Patrick Bamford because he's probably going to cost 50.
I'll tell you how this looks to me. This looks like Robin van Persie all over again. There's going to be 2 Manchester clubs going for him, and the Manchester club that wins the race for this player is going to win the league next year.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And here's the question for you, Wahid. Why not United? I know there's a money thing, but this is the one signing that can sell T-shirts. Those Kane number he's going to wear, T-shirts. He can bring.
So personally, I'm all for it. Push the boat out. Offer them 100 million, Jesse Lingard and Dean Henderson. Okay? Offer them that. Okay? That's a good deal. That's a very good deal. Okay? I would take him. I've seen most journos, United-related journos, are very hesitant on that. They're saying rather go the Jadon Sancho route. Rather chase the player who you've planned for. My feeling is we've got Mason Greenwood. Mason Greenwood on the right-hand side has a ceiling that's probably higher than Jadon Sancho's. Let him play. Bring in the player that's going to win us the league now. Disrupt the City monopoly on this league. Go and do it. Go push the boat out. Show that you're a serious club.
If City buy Kane, no one's touching them for 5-10 years.
Yes, and Kane
years. He's 27, but that's the thing you got to consider with Kane, is that you look at English players his age, and is he going to be a Rooney or is he going to be a Lewandowski? Is he going to be a player who starts waning at around 32, or is he going to be scoring 60 goals when he's 34? You're just not sure. English players, Wayne Rooney, Michael Owen, they have a track record of starting to wane at 32. Especially the centre forwards.
They've been playing for like 16 years already.
But also, I think if you put Kane in a winning team, he's not used to winning, as bad as that is to say. He's not used to winning. All of a sudden, he has a sniff of a trophy, feels what it feels like. I think that guy pushes on past 33.
No, but that's what you want. And that's what you're buying right now. You're buying the cornerstone of... I'd even give them Cavani. I'd be like, you know what? Take it.
What happened? The thing with United,
Edinson, you leave him alone.
United are going to have Cavani. Let's say they're back in. They're going to have Cavani, Kane. What does Martial become? Is he just become BT?
Does he sell Martial? Mannequin Martial can go. That guy stands so still in the box.
Yeah, he's terrible. I would be so disappointed if Spurs do a swap deal with
Listen. 3 years ago when we worked together, all you wanted from United was Martial.
Yes, but that wasn't a swap deal for Kane.
You talked about it every day. How if he comes to Spurs, he'll score 40 goals.
I would take Martial, but I wouldn't take him over Kane.
Yeah, so Dean, you've got a lot of issues, but I've got... So from my end, Arsenal, okay, I think the goal for this weekend is try to find a way to get above Everton. We need help from some other people. But at least finishing 8th will make me feel slightly better than finishing in 10th or 9th. But there's a lot of issues that Arsenal need to figure out. I think the first thing is the manager, but he's staying. So we're going to have another season of us pulling our hair out. And I really don't have any hair, thanks, Arsenal. And so now when I look at that Arsenal squad, I sit there going, like, dude, where do I start? It needs a massive overhaul. I don't even think 100 million will do. But I think you're going to have to do it in like phases. And like he's going to have to put in like 100 million now and probably another 160 to 100 million next season to try and get this team to where it is. Because like, oh my word, it's a problem. But
where's that money going to come from though, Paul?
It has to come just like Wahid is asking for Kane. And the Glazers spent money bringing in, okay, they didn't spend anything, but they spent money trying to get Tom Brady all the bells and whistles he needed to win a Super Bowl. The Glazers need to do that. Stan needs to invest in his club like he wants to win a championship in 2-3 years. And so too, he needs to put the money down. And it's not going to come from the fact that because that money's gone, but he needs to do it in himself. And if he doesn't, then we know, as Wahid said, it's bad ownership. But I think the revenue hit the next season is going to try and force him to try do something. Either sell the club because it's going to continue that way and we're not going to be playing in Europe, or we're going to be knocking on Europa, or try do small tweaks. The one small tweak he could do is get rid of the manager, get someone more experienced in, and with the squad we have, you can finish in Europa League and then maybe somehow, somewhere find a signing that can move you forward, or hope that Bukayo Saka and ESR, and I know why he doesn't like Saka, doesn't think he's that great, he thinks he's overhyped, but that's who we're living with right now. You need Saka, you need ESR, you need Gabriel, you've spent 30 million on, you need Saliba to come back, you need Partey to somehow get a partner can work with him, because that's the thing. But the other thing Also, you need to let go of a lot of people. Bellerin must go. Xhaka must go.
Here's one for you. Aubameyang needs to go.
Aubameyang has to go.
With that salary demand, he's not going to leave anytime soon. We forced him to sign last season. And
What's Lacazette's contract on? How many years does he have left?
Nope. One. Lacazette. He's out.
Lacazette won. So
I reckon he's out of the season.
He'll be sold this season. We need another striker. Alba's a bit of a situation. I think maybe next season, maybe when the salary demands are a little bit less, they'll try to push him away. Aubameyang. I think he signed this contract for 2 years, for 3 years. I think maybe next year they'll try and look for a spot somewhere for him. Willian
Ceballos goes back, eh? Ceballos goes back to Real Madrid.
I don't want
and Odegaard as well.
Yeah, but Odegaard goes back. Hopefully we can either get him back on loan. That's someone I'd spend money on. That is seriously someone I would spend money on.
Yeah,
because he's that good.
100%.
But Real Madrid's probably going to want the world. And the problem right now is after his performances in the Premier League, he probably has clubs more attractive than the current Arsenal. Like looking at him, do you know what I mean? Yes. Like why would you sign Arsenal unless you're really looking at it as a stepping stone career move? Yeah, or you liked Arsenal somehow, somewhere. There's some young coach's daughter that you've been friends with, and you think maybe.
I mean, he could slip into a Leicester team easy. For example, Odegaard could easily go to Leicester.
But here's the thing. Real Madrid's an aging midfield. You've got Modric and Kroos who are in their mid-30s. Casemiro's hitting 30. Odegaard's the guy who they want to come in, rejuvenate that midfield. So they're not going to let him go as plan A unless if they somehow find someone in Euros. So for me, the great thing for Arsenal this week is that Houssem Aouar is no longer in the France squad. So then you can say, okay, fine. His stock has dropped. Go get him and promise him that he'll get as much game time as he wants next to Tom Partey. He can play that 8 role really nicely, and he can then work his way back into the French national team at Arsenal after the disappointment of not playing for France in the Euros. I think that's the type of guy I wanted last season. We went for Partey instead of him. But I do think this season he's someone that you can go. He's not a Martin Odegaard, but he can at least. You need someone who's going to pass the ball forward from that too, because right now Xhaka passes left to right like Mikel Arteta, and Partey tries to, but he's not a technician. He's more defensive than actually attacking. So you kind of sit there going, okay, we're passing side to side. Who's moving?
Very, very expensive Alex Song.
Hey, dude. Oh my word.
The problem with this Arsenal thing, though, it's not going to be fixed this season. It's not going to be fixed next season, and it's not going to be fixed the season after that. That's just a 3-4 year project.
Yeah, but you're
going to keep going at it.
But with bad ownership, really bad ownership, it's a 3.
And also,
no, hold on. This with good ownership, this might be a 3. What I was saying is, it might be a 3 to 4 year project. It's clearing out the squad and building on it. With bad ownership, like, do you really see Arsenal challenging for 4th spot in 4 years' time?
No. We just need a fight to be 6th every season. I think with Arteta, I don't think we can do that regularly. And also with the way in which they've, like Rahul above Arteta as our director of football, those guys don't know anything. You need someone who was experienced to come into the side, into the team as a director of football and kind of shape this out.
What we're looking at here is a fallen giant. A fallen giant as a result of really bad ownership. And it's a story to be told to the likes of the Glazers to say that bad ownership leads to this. But at the moment, it's a fallen giant, and there's like no path to the top. There's no path back to where Arsenal were.
No, and you're true. But do the Glazers make decisions based on who's the cheapest guy? Because that's what they've done so far. Director of football leaves, Ivan Gazidis leaves, they look to hire internally. Ivan's number 2, which makes sense because he was there. But then when that guy leaves, they then go and hire the number 3, but the number 3 never saw what Ivan Gazidis did or whatever it is. Then they went and hired Edu. And you're sitting there going, what? You know, Edu played for Arsenal, but all he ever did was manage the Brazilian club. They got him from bloody Brazil to come and do this here just because he played for Arsenal. And you're sitting there going, okay, then we're doing our appointments at the most important spots in the team outside of the players on the cheap. You need to spend money. You need to go get someone who's experienced in doing this.
I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you, Paul. I don't agree with you at all, because you look at a club like Bayern, or you look at a club like Ajax, and they all go with those internal appointments where you'll think, why the hell is this guy getting the job? And next thing you know, what they've done is they've cultivated the culture of the club into the first team playing squad, and I think that's so important. So when you're saying that you're going on the cheap, you could paint that picture of Darren Fletcher. You could paint that picture, but I'm looking at that and saying that's an astute appointment. He knows how the Sir Alex Ferguson days were. He can work with a player, with a manager like Solskjaer, who also knows how the Sir Alex Ferguson days went, and they can build the culture of the club again. I often said United need a cultural reset to move forward. So I don't completely agree with you to say that just because he played for the club, he's a nobody. You know what I mean? If you're getting players who know the club, who are coming in and doing good work, like Freddie Ljungberg, he needs to be used somewhere there. He wasn't a good interim manager, but he could be used somewhere in the club.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, that's the case. But it's guys who are, and if you look at it, it's Edu, it's Arteta, it's the CEO. They all are 1 or 2 years in the job, like from an experience perspective. You'd want someone who has been doing this for 5 or 6 years in and around there to kind of hold people accountable and kind of guide the ship down a road. And I get you that you want to create the culture of the club, but at least try to find someone who's been coaching for a few years to sit on as an assistant coach, or someone who come into the back room and kind of give them, even as an advisor, you don't have to do the day-to-day job. Just be like, when they say Thomas Partey 50 million, he goes, you got to be joking. Someone to check guys, because we're given 50 million. Hussein Aouar is worth 50 million. You could have taken him, and then we would have figured out Tweedledum and Tweedledee behind him. But yeah, so those are the type of things that's
where I'm going to judge the Glazers extremely harshly in the appointment of Ed Woodward's successor, because I think what they're going to do is they're going to just go and appoint Richard Arnold, who's his 2IC. But what would show real ambition from a club, real ambition, would be to go to Ajax and say, Edwin van der Sar, you come back and help with this cultural reset.
I was thinking about.
You are
that
dreaming,
is the one I was thinking about.
You are dreaming, my boy.
Edwin van der Sar has openly said in the media the only job he'd take, apart from the Ajax job, is the Man United job. He's flirted with that Man United job a few times.
All that guy does now is write letters to you begging to look after Donny van der Beek, and you don't even listen to him there.
Okay, guys, let's move on to the FPL portion of the show. Please do continue to listen in. It's a final weekend. Final changes for the game week are coming up after this. And welcome back to the FPL portion of the Cheap Seats. This is where we discuss all our weekly tips and tricks and transfers and differentials for the coming game week. That is game week 38. It's the final one, the final hurdle. You always want to finish strong. Guys, I was looking at my points for this year, and I have about 2,100. And this year has been the best year. My best FPL year in, I don't know how, from when I started, which is like over 10, 12 years ago. So this show has been helping. I've been taking tips, writing down, and playing around with what I wanted to do. So yeah, so I'm pretty excited about it. So we're going to start with Wahid for the final game week to discuss his team and how it is going how he's going into the game week 38.
Yeah, so I've gone and gotten rid of Bruno. Simply, I think he might be rested this weekend. There's no use in playing him on Sunday ahead of the Europa League final. I must be honest with you. So I've gone and ditched him. I've got Mo Salah to come in because I felt like I needed players who are going to be fighting for something. Like United are fighting for nothing, and I don't want players who, if on a normal final day, you want players who, in that 18th spot, trying to get out of the relegation zone. You want those players; they're fighting for something, and I feel like Salah is going to be fighting for something. So I've gone and stuck him in and captained him, and I feel like that could be something that a lot of people look at because I think that makes a lot of sense. They need to win. United don't, to put it quite lightly. So yeah. And then my differential has been Mason Greenwood. It's not really a differential at this point. He's got 11% ownership, so quite a lot of people own him. Not huge amounts, but I feel like what I looked at was the team I feel like will start the Europa League final, and I feel like Rashford will start on the right, Pogba on the left, and Cavani up top, which means I think Greenwood probably will sit on the bench to start that Europa League final. And as such, I think he'll lead the line in probably a B team over the weekend. I suspect Wolves also having nothing to play for. We might see a 1-1 or 2-2 draw or something like that. But I don't think either team will be particularly tight at the back, which might lead to someone like Greenwood getting on the score sheet.
Okay, Wahid, I know that you are tight for time, but thank you very much for joining. But hang around while Dean discusses his team, and when you
thanks, yeah,
just let us know. So, Dean, your team for the week, your picks, you're transferring Chilwell out Reguilon, who's got the very good pose there. Differential's Chris Wood, and your captain is Mo Salah. Are you also thinking along the lines of Wahid, looking for guys with things to fight for?
Yeah, exactly that. I think Chelsea look like a different team when Chilwell plays. On that left side. So I think Chelsea will have everything to play for. Obviously want to get some momentum into the Champions League final, so bring in some Chelsea players. So, and Leicester will score against Spurs, so Reguilon, easy one out. Chilwell in, yeah, easy one there. I think Salah captain, I think the whole world's going to captain Salah this weekend. But I think from a Chris Wood perspective, I mean, they're playing Sheffield, and yeah, there's not much to play for. But at the same time, I think from a just pride perspective, Burnley have been through the most this season. They were struggling at the beginning there. So I think from that side, a Chris Wood might be someone to have a look at. Alongside, perhaps, I'm caught between either Chris Wood or a Patrick Bamford. Leeds play West Brom. Leeds are having a great season, first time out in the Premier League. So a differential could be between one of those two. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting FPL week.
Well,
it is.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Wahid.
Cheers.
Have a good moment. Have a good time. Thanks. My team is, so I went West Ham, deep. I think West Ham need to find a way to solidify that Europa League spot. So I brought in Mikel Antonio, looking for someone who's different to what everyone else is looking for. I've transferred out Ollie Watkins because they play Liverpool, and I kind of felt that maybe in this period they could, like, they haven't done well the past couple of weeks. Ollie Watkins red card here and there, so I was like, let me just take him out. Mo Salah is my captain, like everybody else. Obviously, my differential is Mikel Antonio. Just looking at that West Ham side, I think they want to finish strong and they want to make a statement. And 5 is still 5 might be out of reach by the time they get there, but it's still something to try and chase. And so I think he could come in. They haven't done well and they've slowed down, and that's my worry with West Ham. So I'm stuck between him, Iheanacho. I think I might actually swing the Iheanacho way depending on how it is, because he's already in my other side. Oh, he's in my side. It's between him and Bamford. I'm just trying to figure out who's got more to lose. And I think Mikel Antonio has more to lose because I think Leeds are happy where they are. Where even if they win on the weekend, they could look. They're fighting for a top 10 finish, Leeds, and they currently are
playing for pride. Yeah, they're playing for a good finishing position. So
yeah. So that's what I'm thinking. From a captaincy perspective, I've got Mason Mount on my side. I still have Bruno. I think I might move Bruno out as well. But I think I'm looking for a Chelsea captaincy option because that's the other team that needs to win. Between Chelsea, Leicester, and Liverpool, one of the captaincy options need to come from there. So I think for me, those are the guys I'm looking for. I might go with the Leicester captain. I just don't know if Iheanacho and Leicester have it in them to give me at least 2 goals against Spurs. Because I don't think Spurs are going to let it go lightly. It's going to be emotional for Spurs. Harry Kane's last game. It's going to be just
it's going to be a shambles.
Yeah. So that's the type of thing. But if Mourinho is here, I'd go Kane as captain because I know what Mourinho would have given the guy type of goal because they celebrated coming 5th the last time. In that was it a Sheffield dressing room or a Wolves dressing room, and they went like wild. Yeah, so those are the type of things. Like if Mourinho is here, yes, it's Ryan Mason. I'm like, you know what, it's fine. But Son is also a good captaincy option if you're looking, but we don't know what Spurs is going to come out. So that's the big thing. And I can't go City players because I think they're going to be resting their players.
Can't touch City players. Don't even
also
touch
Chelsea players as much because like I'd be resting all my starters if I was Thomas Tuchel, but he needs to find a way.
Yeah, he has to still secure Champions League.
Yeah, but they've got 6 days until the Champions League, so they've got time. But yeah, so Dean, any other sneaky transfer tips, or is it just like, you know what, final end of the season, let's go as high as possible?
Honestly, I think it's been a tough season for a lot of people, so I think everyone's just gonna go absolutely balls to the wall and try and score as many points as they can. I think a Leeds and that Burnley game are two fixtures you could probably look to capitalize on just because it's West Brom and Sheffield. But other than that, it will be tough to try and find points because a lot of teams are done. They're happy with where they're at, and they're going to go, okay, cool, I'll play under 17s.
What about a Joe Willock against Fulham?
You see, I mean, Joe Willock's doing well. The problem is he's an Arsenal player, so I obviously can't look at him. So
that's your problem. That's your problem.
But I think, I mean, him and Alan Saint-Maximin, I mean, those are 2 good choices on the cheap that could come up with a lot of goals. And again, they're just playing for pride. So I think targeting those teams that are going down, those fixtures, so Sheffield, West Brom, and Fulham, targeting those guys, they all got fairly games that can be, end up with. That's the other thing. On the final day, you can end up with a 5-0. We've seen it in the past. Those final day games are crazy. So goals galore.
And you can also go Arsenal, but you don't do that. I do that. I don't do that on FPL, but I was thinking about it. They're playing Brighton, so that could be something that.
And then Brighton pull up a 3-2 win agast City like they did last night.
Hey, sneaky Percy Down pick right there. Percy Down pick.
Could be good.
Could start for his final game. I think it's probably his final game for Brighton because I think we need to let him go. Okay. Dean, I think let's close it up here. Thank you very much for joining. Thanks to Wahid for joining. Thank you to everyone who was watching and listening to this podcast. Till enjoy the final weekend. We'll be back next week for like a review show of the season, play of the season, team of the season, you name it, whatever of the season, groundsman of the season, whatever it is, we'll talk about it next on the cheap seats. But thank you very much, Dean, and to all the football fans out there, we've got Euros after this, but there's nothing like the league. So enjoy the weekend as much as you can. From myself and the rest of the Cheap Seats team, have a good evening, good weekend, and Nasale Kakakis.